So today we'll see XPath locator. In the last classes, we have seen the basic locators like ID, name, link text, partial link text, tag name, and class name. And then we also discussed about the CSS selector and different combinations of CSS selector. And today we'll see one more type of locator, which is XPath. And most important, and most of the times we prefer to use XPath. 80 to 90% of the times we always use XPath to locate the element, even in automation and real-time projects and almost everywhere. Uh, let's see what exactly XPath means and what it contains. So how we can write an XPath, how we can generate an XPath, and what are the different types of XPath we can create. There are multiple things we have to discuss in this. Okay, let us start. So the basic definition, what is an XPath? XPath is nothing but it is derived from the XML path. Basically, the XPath works based on the XML. It is derived from the XML language. XML is a extensible markup language. It is just like an HTML. XML is also another type of a scripting language. From XML, XPath is got created or designed. In shortcut, in XML path, in shortcut, we can call it as a XPath. And what is the definition of the XPath? XPath is an address of the element. XPath is representing an address of the element. Means what? If there is an element on the web page, it can be anywhere on the throughout the web page. It can be placed anywhere. There should be some address for that element. Okay, for every element there should be some address, and that address we can capture. That is called XPath. Address of the element. XPath is representing an address of the element. Okay, from where we will get that XPath? XPath works based on the DOM. DOM is nothing but a document object model. So document object model. This is the full form of DOM. So let us try to understand what is a DOM. DOM is nothing but a document object model, which is got created when you browsing the web page at the runtime. Okay. So normally what is happening is how we can browse the pages. You will open the browser and you will type the URL like this. So as soon as you type URL, as soon as you hit something, and at runtime, it will load the DOM structure. So now you got a page. So if you try here and you can say inspect, so whatever you can see here, this is called DOM. Okay, so here in the elements you can see, right, this is called DOM, DOM, document object model. Okay, so this document object model, this DOM will be loaded at the runtime once you browse any web page. And based on this DOM, the XML or XPath will work. Also, we can capture XPath from this particular DOM, document object model. Okay, so XPath is an address of the element, and we can capture the XPath from the DOM itself. Okay, sometimes what happens is you have created some XPath locator in your automation script and you have executed, and you may get some kind of exception like DOM is not loaded, something like that. So what does that mean is that XPath will able to capture from the DOM, but when you're browsing the page at that time, DOM is still not fully loaded. So once this DOM is fully generated by the browser, then only XPath will able to capture it, the element, or XPath will automatically works. If the DOM is still not loaded completely, so even the XPath is correct, it cannot identify the element and that cannot be find in the DOM. So DOM should be completely loaded and then only XPath will work, right? So document object model. So XPath will work based on the DOM, document object model. Now, there are two kinds of XPath. And somebody is writing. Just a second. Okay. Just a moment. All right. So XPath is an address of the element. DOM is a document object model. Based on the DOM, XPath will work. Okay. Now, so there are two kinds of XPath we have. Let us see what are those two types of XPaths. Two types of XPath. Okay, one is called Absolute XPath. Absolute XPath, and this is also called as full XPath. Second type of XPath is called Relative XPath, which is also called partial XPath. Okay, Absolute XPath and partial XPath. Absolute XPath means what? Is also called as full XPath. Relative XPath is nothing but a partial XPath. These are the two kinds of XPaths we have. So let me show you how these XPaths looks like. Suppose I just open some application here. Any application you can just open. Suppose I want to find XPath of this input box. Okay, so you can just right click on it, and you can simply say here you can say inspect that element. So here input is a tag name. There are some more attributes are there, right? So if you want to capture XPath from the dev tools, simply you can right click on this statement, and here you can see copy, and here you can see two options: copy XPath, copy full XPath. So when I say copy full XPath and then paste it over here, this is called Absolute XPath. Okay. Now let me show you Relative XPath. So for the same statement, again I'm right clicking here, go to copy, and then say copy XPath, just copy XPath. And then you can see XPath like this. So this is a Relative XPath and this is a Absolute XPath. This is an example for Absolute XPath. This is the example for the Relative XPath. So there are two kinds of XPath which we have. One is called Absolute XPath. This is an example. I'll discuss all the stuff, differences, how we can generate all those things, just to have some time. Okay, this is a Relative XPath. Okay, so this is Absolute XPath and this is the Relative XPath. Okay, now if you look at these two XPaths, we can see a lot of difference. So in Absolute XPath, if you look at here, this XPath is got generated. What exactly they are, if you look at this, what is this HTML, body, header, div, input? These are all tags. These are all tag names. Okay. If you look at this HTML, you can see HTML, header, body, right? And these are all multiple div tags are there. And here there is an input. So Absolute XPath contains only the tag names. But where exactly our element is present, this is our exact element, which is having input tag, right? That is our exact element we are looking for. But apart from this tag, it is also captured other tag names which are there in the previous nodes. Means what? If you look at the Absolute XPath, this is the actual element. But from where it is got generated from the HTML, then it go to body, then header section. Inside this, there are div, inside this another div, inside this another div. Again, here there are multiple divs are there. So it is go to second div, again one more div, and here we can find the input tag. That means Absolute XPath will be created by navigating each and every node till you reaches the expected node. For example, let's say here input is tag. So what is the root node here is HTML. We are just navigating from the beginning. So Absolute XPath is always start from the root HTML node. We can call it every tag is a node. Okay, node is representing one element. So HTML is a root node. And inside this, we go to body. Inside the body, we go to header. And inside the header, there is one div tag. If I look at this XPath, you can just compare like this. So first HTML, then body, then header. So inside the header, there is only one div tag here. So there is a one div. Now if we expand this div tag little bit like this, again, there is a two div tags are there, three div tags are there. Inside the div, so this is a header. Header contains one div tag. Inside this div tag, there is one more div tag. And you can look at here. This is a main div tag under header. And inside this, there is another div tag. Now, if you expand this div tag, again, there are 3 div tags. Now, in which div tag is available our element? In the second div tag. So we need to expand the second one. Right? So here you can say index div of 2. And inside this, there is only one div tag. And this div tag contains a input tag. So here which contains only one div tag which contains the input. So if you look at this Absolute XPath will navigate from the root HTML. So till it reaches the element, it will capture every node or every tag between the HTML and your element. Between these two, whatever the nodes are available in the hierarchy, basically it will follow the hierarchy structure. In that particular tree or hierarchy model, it will capture each and every tag or node till it reaches the element. And Absolute XPath contains only tag names. Okay, so this is a Absolute XPath. It is starting from the HTML node, navigated each and every tag in the hierarchy, and then finally it reaches the element here. This is called Absolute XPath. Now come to the Relative XPath. Relative XPath will directly jump to the element, because in the Relative XPath, we no need to navigate from the root node. We will directly jump to the element by using some attribute. So what is the major difference between Absolute and Relative XPath is, Absolute XPath, we never specify any attributes. We never use any attributes here. Just we use only tag names of the elements. But in the Relative XPath, we use something called attributes. We can use single attribute or we can use multiple attributes. There are multiple options are there. But we will use mainly attribute of the element. And here star representing a node, slash star is representing the tag name. Or instead of star, we can put the tag name also, no problem. And attribute, and first it will go to search, and in that you can find the input tag. Suppose if you look at here, this is the input. And where is this input tag? Is there in the parent. So this div is a parent. So input is not having any ID here. So do we have any ID attribute here? No. So it is taken parent element by using ID. It is created XPath for this. Inside this, there is input tag. So you can simply say slash input. We can also write direct XPath for input. If you want to write, simply can specify the attribute. So name equal to search is there. So instead of ID, you can directly say name equal to search, and you can remove this part. This is called Relative XPath. Okay, this is the actual Relative XPath. We just use some attribute of the element inside that XPath. And what is the major difference here is, Absolute XPath will start from the beginning, and each and every node it will capture till it reaches the final node. And Relative XPath, by using this attribute, it will directly jump to the element and then it will find out. It will not navigate from each and every node. Okay, so this is an example for Absolute XPath. This is an example for the Relative XPath. So if you want to capture from the dev tools, you can simply inspect that element, go to the statement, you can right click and copy, and then use these two options. And suppose if you want to capture this by using selector hub, then how we can do it? There are direct options are available. You can just right click on the element, go to selector hub here, and here you can see direct options. So ID you can copy directly, name you can copy, Relative XPath you can copy. Okay, and then CSS you can copy, Absolute XPath. ABS XPath means it's an Absolute XPath. Relative XPath you can directly copy from here. So you can get it, the XPath directly from this context menu options. Or you can directly inspect this element, get the selector hub. This is a selector hub. The last class I have shown you, this is a selector hub window, right? So this is automatically generated. If you look at here, this is a XPath, a Relative XPath. And where is the Absolute XPath? If you scroll down, here you can see this is a Absolute XPath of the element. Okay, you can directly get them from the dev tools or by using selector hub or by using context menu. So everywhere options are available, you can directly get those XPaths. But most of the times, but sometimes it is okay, you can capture the XPath directly, but sometimes we have to write our own XPaths. I will show you in which scenarios we have to write our own XPath. Okay, and always we cannot generate XPath for every type of element, but there are certain situations where we have to create our own XPaths. Okay, I'll show you that options also. But as of now, this is a absolute XPath. This is a relative XPath. Two kinds of XPath we have. One is called absolute XPath. Another one is relative XPath. Okay. So if you look at these two types of XPaths, which XPath we will prefer to use? Any guess? Absolute XPath, relative XPath. There are two kinds of XPath. In our automation, which XPath we will prefer most of the times? Which XPath will prefer? Okay. So people are saying relative XPath we will prefer to use most of the times. Okay. So if I ask why relative XPath is preferred, when you compare these two, absolute and relative XPath, which type of XPath we will prefer? Yes, relative XPath we will prefer. Most of the times we'll prefer relative XPath. Okay. Yeah, it is just a given one example. I will explain this relative XPath in detail. Okay. So we have to learn more about relative XPath. I'll come to and explain the relative XPath in detail. But here I'm just showing types of XPath. Stick to that. So we will discuss again individually with more examples. I will give you more examples. Just hold on for some time. Okay, now why we will use relative XPath? Why we will prefer relative XPath? Okay, there are multiple reasons. So many people will say one single answer, that is absolute XPath is very lengthy, whereas relative XPath is very smaller. Okay, so if I use absolute XPaths in our automation in many places, your code looks ugly, right? It's not clean. But if I use short XPath like this, it's very simple and also code looks good, very clean, right? But this is the answer most of the people will tell. But the actual reason is sometimes absolute XPath will maybe smaller than relative XPath. Suppose if the web page is very smaller and there are very few number of elements, sometimes your absolute XPath will be smaller than relative XPath. Okay, but what is the actual reason behind that? Why we should use relative XPath? This is the most popular interview question. So how many types of XPaths? Absolute and relative XPath. And why, which XPath we will prefer? Relative XPath we will prefer. Why relative XPath is preferred? It is not because of length of the XPath. The main reason is, suppose if you are using absolute XPath, let us say I have used absolute XPath. How it is going to work? How exactly absolute XPath works? How it is going to locate an element? For example, let's say absolute XPath, everything is a hierarchy, right? Suppose this is an element. In this, there is another element. In this, another element. In this, another element. In this, other. This is the actual element we want to find out. But from where the navigation is started? From the root HTML. So from here to here, it should come. Again here, here, here. And here it should find the element. And here every tag is representing some element. So if I look at here, every tag is representing some element on the web page. Every node is representing particular element in the web page. So if you are using absolute XPath, the problem is, suppose if the developer changed something, let's say he put some elements like this on the web page. Developer can introduce some new element somewhere in the middle of something, or developer can change the location of the web element. Suppose today logo is present here, and tomorrow developer is going to change the logo position here. And these changes keep happens in the real time projects on day-to-day basis, and the UI changes keeps happens. So when the UI changes are happens, or developer is added some element, a new element, or okay, developer is removed some element, existing element, or developer has changed the position of the element, these changes definitely will impact the hierarchy, right? Suppose if this particular got changed into some other position, then what happens? This absolute XPath connection is got connection is got disturbed, right? So then what happens? The navigation cannot reach to this element. So this is the major problem for the Absolute XPath. Okay. So why we should not prefer Absolute XPath? Because developer keep doing some changes on the web page. They can add a new elements or they can remove existing element. They can do a reposition element. Because of these changes, the hierarchy will keep impacted, and our XPath will be broken. Then we cannot locate our element. These chances are very, very, very huge. So because of those changes, our XPath will impact. That's the reason we don't prefer Absolute XPath. Okay. But don't we have such problem in the Relative XPath? No. Why? Because in the Relative XPath, basically it will work based on the attribute of the element. We specify some attribute. So // will directly jump to the element whichever is having this attribute. So it will not navigate throughout the hierarchy or throughout all the nodes. So even though element is got added, some new element is got added, or existing element is got moved, the attributes will not change. So this XPath will always works. So that is the reason Relative XPath is always preferred. It is not because of size of an XPath, it is because of changes on the web pages. The changes in the web page definitely will impact Absolute XPath, but that cannot be impacted Relative XPath. So that is the reason we always prefer to use Relative XPath. Okay. So very important question. So I'm going to write here which XPath will be preferred. Always we will prefer Relative XPath. Okay. Now, what are the major differences? When you compare Absolute and Relative XPath, what are the major differences? This is also another most important entry question during the interview. So difference between XPath, Absolute and Relative XPaths. So difference between Absolute and Relative XPath. Just now we understood one difference. What is it? One difference we noticed. So Absolute XPath will navigate each and every node till it reaches the actual element. But Relative XPath will directly jump to the element based on the attribute which we provided. That's the one difference. Apart from this, there are some more differences are there. So let me put it here. Most popular entry question. The first difference. Absolute XPath will always start with the single slash, whereas Relative XPath will always start with the double slash. Remember this. Single slash will navigate only one level, but double slash can navigate multiple levels. That's the reason in Absolute XPath, when I use single slash, it will go to the only next level, only one level. So under body, there is a header. From body to div, we cannot directly jump. Why? Because we are using single slashes here. And double slash can directly jump to the element. Okay. So Absolute XPath will start from single slash. Relative XPath will start with the double slash. This is a one important difference. So single slash is always representing the root node. That is HTML is a starting node of the HTML. Right? That's the root node. Absolute XPath do not use attributes. If I look at here in Absolute XPath, we haven't used any attributes of the element. We used only tag names. It can be any tag name. Okay, in between HTML root node to input tag, whatever the elements are there in between these two, it is captured the tag names of all the elements, and it is made a root or it is made a path. That's called XPath, right? So Absolute XPath don't use any attributes, whereas Relative XPath works based on the attribute. It will use certain attribute. Without attribute, we cannot create a XPath. But there are another ways to do it. If I don't use attribute, but attribute must be there. So in Relative XPath, we have to use some attribute. Third difference. Absolute XPath traverses through each and every node till it finds the element. So it will start from HTML. It will go to each and every node and finally it reaches the input element. And Relative XPath directly jump and find the element by using attribute. So these are the differences between absolute XPath and relative XPath. So during interview, if anybody asks you, you should explain all three differences. So absolute XPath start with single slash, relative XPath will start with a double slash. Absolute XPath will use absolute XPath don't use attributes, whereas relative XPath will use attributes. Absolute XPath will navigate throughout the DOM, whereas relative XPath will directly jump and find the element in the DOM. So these are the three differences. Okay. So the performance wise is almost the same. Even it is absolute XPath and relative XPath, performance wise, there is no much difference. Okay. But user perspective, there is a n number of chances are there in absolute XPath definitely will be broken because developer keeps doing some changes on the web page. Because of that, absolute XPath will always impact it. So that's the reason absolute XPath is not preferred. Relative XPath is preferred. It is not because of performance, but slight difference is there, but that is negligible that is a negligible. As a user, we cannot see that much of difference when I use absolute or relative XPath. Okay. Yes, attributes in the sense we already know what is attribute means. We already discussed. What is an attribute? What are the attributes? Every element is having certain attributes, right? See, for example, if I look at this input box, so what are the attributes of the element? Type is one attribute, name is an attribute, placeholder is value, class is an attribute. These are all attributes. So XPath can use any of these attributes. Okay, XPath can use any of the attribute. So that's called attribute. So absolute XPath use attribute, but sorry, relative XPath will use an attribute, but absolute XPath, we don't use any attributes. We use only tags of the elements. Okay. So these are the differences between absolute XPath and then relative XPath. Now, absolute XPath is very, very simple because just it is a hierarchy, right? And it can be generated. As I said, you can just right click here, copy and copy full XPath. This is the option which is available, or else you can directly use selector hub and copy absolute XPath. You can use this option, or you can directly go to selector hub tool and you can get it from the selector hub. Here you can see absolute XPath. So you can get it from here. And if you press enter, it will check whether this XPath is able to locating element or not. So these are the multiple ways we can capture the XPath. But absolute XPath is straightforward, means what? It will directly navigating from the root node and it will generate the XPath. So now you guys can tell me, I will write something here. You guys can tell me the absolute XPath, how we can write an absolute XPath. Okay, let's say I have some node called A and then B and then C. So inside this A, again I have a subnodes A1, A2, A3. Inside the A3, I have A31, A32, A33, and inside the C also I have a C1. So let's say these are all different nodes. Okay, C3. In the C2, I have again C21. In the C21, I have a C211. Okay, let's say this is my HTML hierarchy or DOM hierarchy. Now, I want to locate this particular element. Now, tell me how to write an absolute XPath. First, we will start from the root A slash. Inside they have a three nodes A1, A2, A3. So which node we have to go here? A3. So A slash A3 slash inside the A3 again I have a three nodes A31, A32, A33. Which element you want to find? Third element. So A33. So this is our XPath. Okay. Similarly, I want to find C211. This is the element I want to find. Then how to write XPath? Starting node is what? A, B, C. This is all comes under this is starting node A, B, C. A, B, C, and again let's say this is there is a root node inside this. We have A, B, and C. Okay, now let me tell you. Root is a node. From the root, we have to go to the C. Inside the C, we have a three nodes, C1, C2, C3, where we have to go C2. C2 slash, inside the C2, we have a C21. C21 slash, inside this, we have a C21 again. C211. So this is how we can write a absolute XPath from the DOM. But it is very challenging if you have a huge or very complex web pages. Okay, because you sometimes you may have 10 elements in between, you may have 20, 30, 50 elements. If the page complexity is increased, obviously the absolute XPath complexities also will be increased. So it is not recommended most of the times, first of all. But if you still want to write an exact absolute XPath, you can simply write like this. By using hierarchy, we can, by based on the DOM, we can clearly write our own XPaths. Okay, this is simple. So we don't need to discuss more about absolute XPath because relative XPath is most important than absolute XPath. So now you got some idea about the XPath, right? What is an absolute XPath basically? Absolute XPath is the complete path we have to write by specifying the each and every node, means each and every tag of the element till we reaches the expected element. That's an absolute XPath. So it is not big thing. We can simply write a absolute XPath. Now let us discuss more about relative XPath because that's the most important. So let us discuss about relative XPath, and which is also called as a partial XPath. So the relative XPath we can generate automatically and we can also create manually. So two different ways we can create a relative XPath. First approach, we can do automatically. Okay, automatically we can create. Second option is we can create manually. So we can create relative XPath manually, or we can say our own XPath. Our own XPath we can generate. Okay, so automatically means we can use either DevTools option, okay, DevTools option, or by using selectors hub, we can automatically generate. By DevTools selector hub, we can automatically generate. So example, let's go here and suppose if you want to create an XPath for this logo element, you can just right click and inspect and go to the script here, right click, copy. Here you can find copy full XPath, copy XPath. So these two options are available from the DevTools. And from the selector hub, if you want to use, again, just right click on the element directly, go to selector hub, and here you can get these options. So copy relative XPath, copy absolute XPath. You can see these two options. Okay, I'm just copying relative XPath for that logo element, and it seems like this. See, it is used some attribute of the element. Okay, and absolute XPath. If you want to capture absolute XPath, you can just right click and selector hub, and you can say here this is copy ABS XPath. So this will give you absolute XPath. Okay, so you can directly capture the XPaths automatically. And if you want to use selector hub, what you can simply do it and inspect and open the selector hub tool. So here, go to selector hub, and in the selector hub, this is our selector hub. So here you can directly get the element. So inspect this element. As soon as we inspected here, you can see this is a XPath, relative XPath, and this is a, if I scroll down, you can see the absolute XPath. This is the absolute XPath. And if you want to verify that XPath is correctly working or not, you can just double click here. It will copy and press enter, and this will find one element is matching. Same thing for absolute XPath. If I go to absolute XPath, this is absolute XPath of the element, press enter, and it is finding the one element. So it is very easy to generate XPaths. It can be absolute or relative XPath. We can easily generate by using DevTools and the selector hub. Okay, but how we can generate manually? Manually, I want to generate my own XPath. So then we have to follow a syntax. So if you know the syntax, we can easily generate our own XPaths. Okay, so let me tell you what is a syntax, how to generate our own XPath. I'll give you multiple examples. And the syntax is, first thing, you need to start with the slash slash, and you can put the tag name here, tag name of the element. In the bracket, specify the attribute and value of the element. And we need to start with @ symbol. @ here, attribute name equal to attribute value you have to specify in single or double quotations. So this is the syntax. And other thing is, suppose if you don't want to specify the tag name, or if you don't know the tag name, you can also put simply star, star representing a regular expression. So this is a syntax. So tag name is not optional. You should specify the tag name, or at least you should specify the star if you don't know the tag name. Okay. And attribute we can specify by using @ symbol. Here we use @ attribute name equal to value of the attribute. And here also attribute equal to value of the attribute. So this is a syntax. So if you know the syntax, you can write XPath for any element. Now let me show you how we can write it. Just a moment. Okay. Now let us see how to write a relative XPath for few elements. Let's go and check any element. So in this particular page, I want to write relative XPath for some element. Let us say you can take any element. Let's say I will take this desktop image element. Okay, so inspect this element. And if you are inspecting this element, so this is the HTML of this image, right? So how to write relative XPath for this image? What is the tag name here? IMG is a tag name. So say IMG slash slash, start with a slash slash IMG in the bracket. And what are the attributes are available for this? SRC is available, but most of the times we don't use SRC because this is representing the target URL. Alt property, title, and class. Okay, and let me take the title. Title equal to MacBook. So let me capture this entire thing. Go back, and here @, that's it. Title, whatever the attribute is available, you can specify equal to the value of the attribute. So this is the relative XPath. Very simple. And you can try this directly whether it's working or not. How we can verify? You can go to the selector hub and you can just paste it over here. Then press enter. Now we can see this XPath is exactly matching with one element. Okay, so we can simply write our relative XPath if you know the syntax of the element. So what is the syntax slash slash? Even if you put the star also, this will work. Suppose if you don't know the tag name, you can simply put star. So this will also find the one element. So in the relative XPath, mainly it will works based on the attribute. You must specify the attribute of the element along with the tag. So if you know the syntax, you can easily write our own XPaths for the element. And again, there are different types of relative XPath, different ways we can write. There are multiple things like we can specify multiple attributes. We can use some built-in methods in this. We can use different operators and or operators and chained XPaths. There are multiple flavors of relative XPaths are available. So we will discuss them one by one. So for everybody is clear, got some idea about the XPath. What is an XPath? What are the types of XPath? How we can create an XPath? So here you can put single or double quotes. So if you put double quotes, what you need to do is you need to use something called regular expression like this. Why? Because in Java, we have to keep this entire XPath in double quotations. So double quotations inside the double quotations are not allowed. So we should specify the regular expression by using slash. And instead of that, you can simply put single quotations. Okay. Put single quotation. That is also still fine. Right. So this is how we can create relative XPath based on the syntax. Right. So now we'll see different types of XPaths. In relative XPath only, we have a different flavors. We will see all of them one by one by using example. So now let's go to Eclipse directly and then create new package day 24. Inside this, I'm creating a new class. Name it as a XPath demo, taking main method and say finish. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how we can use an XPath in our automation with some examples. First of all, I want to launch my browser. So for that, I can say driver equal to new Chrome driver I'm taking. All right. So import Chrome driver, or you can say Control Shift O. So that will import required packages. And then we will launch our application. I can say driver dot get. And here I will specify this OpenCart demo application. This is the URL. And how to maximize the page? What's the command? Driver dot manage dot window dot driver dot manage dot window dot maximize. Okay, this will maximize the page. Now, so let us try to use XPath. The first example, XPath with single, here I'm showing you all of them are relative XPaths. Okay, XPath with single attribute. XPath with the single attribute. How we can write? Suppose this is the input box I want to locate. This is input box I want to locate. Just inspect this element. And there are multiple attributes are there. So I want to create an XPath for this element. If I go back to the selector hub, you can write your own XPath, or else you can capture this XPath. And if you look at this, this is a single attribute which we have used. So how we can use XPath? Driver dot find element by dot XPath. So here we have to call XPath method. XPath and specify the XPath like this. And if you put double quotations, what is the problem in this is you will see some error kind of thing. So why we are getting this error? Because the double quotations we already used, but inside this again another double quotations we are using. This is the problem. So you can put the single quote inside this. Okay, now this is an XPath of the element. And once you locate an element, then I can pass some value in it. Let's say I'm passing you can pass anything. So I can pass t-shirts like this. Okay, this is having single attribute. So the relative XPath is having single attribute. This is an example for single attribute. We can also specify multiple attributes, but this we have used only one single attribute. So let's execute and see. Okay, it is started execution. Yes, now we can see there is a value which is got assigned here. Input box is recognized. Fine. So this is one single XPath with a single attribute. But sometimes we can also specify multiple attributes. If you want to specify multiple attribute, you can specify. So XPath with multiple attributes. Suppose if you want to specify XPath with multiple attributes, how we can specify? So this is for single attribute. No, it is executing very fast. Actually, I'm using two monitors. So that's the reason my browser is opening in my main monitor. So I'm just dragging into secondary monitor. So that's the reason still it is showing like that. Otherwise it will maximizing. Okay. So let me run this one more time. It is going very faster. So as soon as you executed, my browser is open. Now you can see, yeah, it is maximized. Right. So now how we can specify multiple attributes in the XPath? So to specify the multiple attributes in the XPath, you can see like this. Okay, I will also copy this. Single attribute. XPath with single attribute. This is an example. So now XPath with multiple attributes. So if you want to create an XPath with multiple attributes, we can still create. So if you want to do it, you can say open cut application, and then so for the same element, I want to specify 2 attributes. Then what you can do is go here and go to selector hub, and here you can write your own XPath. So this is the element I want to write our own XPath by specifying multiple attributes. // input is a tag name, and the first attribute I'm using name equal to search. Okay, and second attribute, if you want to specify, use one more bracket. Okay, and here you can specify @ one more bracket @ and you can use any other attribute for this element. So I have something called placeholder, so that I can use @placeholder equal to, and the values are case sensitive, exactly you have to provide. So you can see the value of the name is such, s is a lowercase character, and the value of the placeholder is also such, but the value is started with the uppercase character. So when you press enter, this is able to locate an element. Okay, so this is a XPath of the element. By specifying multiple attributes, we can write our own XPath. So which one you have not understood? Varsha, can you tell me? I can repeat. So XPath with a single attribute, XPath with the multiple attributes. If you want to specify multiple attributes, you can specify in another bracket. So this is one attribute, this is another attribute. Okay, if you put multiple attributes, it will be more stronger. So like this also we can use XPath by specifying multiple attributes. So how we can write it now? Driver dot find element by dot XPath, and here I can specify that XPath, and the dot send keys. Here I'm passing the value. So this is how we can use XPath with multiple attributes. You can specify n number of attributes, whatever is available for that element. Okay, so this is one more example. So instead bracket we can use, and that is a different case. I'll come to that. They are operators, and or they are operators. So if you want to specify multiple attributes, you can specify like this. So this is one attribute, and this is another attribute for the same element. Okay, so this is another flavor. Let's execute now. Run as Java application. See, my web page is maximized, and then you can see the values got entered. Okay, so XPath with the single attribute, XPath with the multiple attributes. Now in the XPath, we can also use operators. We have something called AND OR operators. XPath with AND OR operators. So if one value is correct, if one value is wrong, it cannot locate the element. Both attributes should be correct. Okay. If you specify multiple attributes, even one attribute is not correct, this cannot be located the element. It will throw exception. So whatever attributes you specify here, all the attributes should be true. All attributes should be correct. Then only it will able to locate the element. Okay. All right. So now XPath with AND OR operator. There are two operators we can use in XPath: AND operator, OR operator. Most important, listen carefully. AND OR operator. Again, in the AND OR operator, we can specify multiple attributes. Okay. For example, look at the same input box. So this is one attribute, right? @name equal to search. Here I'm using something called AND operator. AND @placeholder equal to search. Okay, just observe. So this is the XPath I have written, and this will able to locate one element. Let's try to understand this. In this XPath, I specified multiple attributes, single bracket. but I specified something called end operator here. So at the rate name equal to such, and at the rate placeholder is also such. So how exactly this end operator works? When I use this XPath, when it will able to locate the element, if both the attributes are correct, then only this XPath will able to locate the element. It is almost similar to this one. Okay. But here we use additional end operator. So how exactly end means? End means first one and second one. Both the attributes should be correct. Then only this locator will identify the element. Okay. Suppose if I'm using OR operator, instead of end, I say OR. Then at least one attribute should be matched. Suppose this first attribute is correct, but second one is not matching. Will it identify element or not? Yes, still able to identify. Similarly, the first attribute is not correct, but the second one is correct. In that case also, it will able to locate the element. So AND operator means both the attributes should be true, then only it will able to locate an element. In the OR operator, at least one attribute should be true. At least one attribute should be true, then only it will able to locate the element. If one of the attribute is false, or both, if both attributes are false, or both attributes are not matching with any element, then finally it cannot locate an element. Now, if I look at here, I'm using AND operator. So one element is matching. So for example, I'm giving some incorrect value. See, 0 element. So even though the first attribute value is correct, the second one is wrong. That's the reason AND operator cannot locate any element, 0 elements. Okay. Suppose instead of AND, I'm using OR. OR. Now, able to locate element. Why? Because at least one attribute should be matched. Then OR operator will able to locate an element. AND means what? Both attributes should be matched. Then only that XPath will able to locate the element. Okay. So you can put multiple attributes, not only two attributes, you can put multiple attributes, 3, 4, 5 also you can put. Right. This is about AND OR operator. AND means what? Both should be true. Then only it will able to locate element. OR means at least one should be true. Then only it will locate operator. When it cannot locate, if both attributes are not correct, then it cannot locate the element. Okay. So let's try to use in our automation. So that is up to you. If you want to use multiple attributes, you can use that. Will make your XPath very stronger. Okay. So suppose if I use this one, AND operator, that means you are expecting both the attributes must be there. You are expecting both the attributes must be there. In that case, you can use AND. Suppose at least one attribute is matching, then you can find that element. If you want to find the element at least with one attribute, you can specify both attributes, and even one is okay or one is matched, then it can find that element. In that particular scenario, you can use AND OR. So multiple attributes make your XPath more stronger. Instead of depending on one attribute, you can also specify multiple attributes that will make your XPath very stronger. Okay, so if your element is having one single attribute, right, there is no question of using multiple attributes. So you have to use only one single attribute. Especially suppose you have an anchor tag, which is having only one attribute called href attribute, right? So other than this, there is no other choice. So in that case, you can specify only one attribute. That is again based upon the availability. Okay, if the attribute is having multiple attributes, if the element is having multiple attributes provided in the DOM, you can use it in XPath. If not provided, one single attribute is available, then you can use it. Okay, that's still fine. Even though attribute is not available, still you can write an XPath. I will come to that part. Suppose I don't have any attributes for the element. Still, can we write an XPath? Yes, we can still write an XPath for the element, even though the attributes are not available. I will come to that, how we can write, okay? So XPath access, no. Here I'm not discussing any XPath access. So don't discuss that, okay? We will discuss XPath access, which is very advanced concept. We will cover in the next session. So this, I'm just talking about some basic type of XPath today. I'm not going to deeper aspects, okay? Just stick to that. Right. So AND or operators. Let's go back and let us see how we can use them. So the next one, XPath with AND operator. XPath with AND operator. Yeah. So we can write driver dot find element by dot XPath. In the double quotations, we can specify this XPath. Right. So here AND operator we have to use, and dot send keys of, we can pass the value. Okay. So this is how we can use multiple attributes with AND operator. Okay, execute. Okay, now it is open maximized. Now you can see the values got entered. Same thing we can try with OR operator. So if I just look at here, OR operator. So instead of AND, I'm saying OR. OR means at least one should be true. Even secondary is not correct, still it will work fine. So what I will do is I make placeholder is some XYZ. It is incorrect, but still it will able to locate element. Okay, now you can see the values got entered. So this is a OR operator. XPath with AND OR operators. Okay, got the difference, everyone? So difference between AND OR. AND means both the attributes should be true, should be matched. Then only it will able to locate element. OR means at least one attribute should be true, then only it will able to locate the element. That is a major difference between AND OR. Yes, if the developer keeps changing the attributes and all, we will try to handle them in different way. That's a different concept again. So how we can handle the elements, those attributes are dynamically changing. That's a different concept. I will come to that part. So these are XPaths, which we are currently using is for static attributes. If the attributes are not changing, they are constant, then you can go with this attributes. But initial stages, the developer do more number of changes. Once your build is stable, right? Once you get 2, 3, 4, 5 builds in every cycle, you will get a new builds. Slowly the stability come into picture. So once the build is stable, then your XPaths and attributes, everything will become stable. So you don't need to change every time. But in initial stages, the attributes or elements keeps changing. In those cases, static stuff will not work properly. Okay. How to handle the dynamic elements, I will come to that part. That's the next topic. Okay, this is XPath for AND OR. I will cover each and everything, guys. You don't need to ask before itself. First, let us listen first. Okay, once you listen everything, once I finish the session, then if you have something to discuss, you can ask the question. And don't go beyond this topic. So if you already know something, keep quiet some time. Okay, don't ask anything. If you already know something, and you can ask the question at the end of the session, because otherwise unnecessarily other people will be confused. I'll go step by step, each and everything I will cover. Okay, now AND OR operator we discussed with the multiple attributes. So there is another flavor. Suppose sometimes we can also write an XPath with the inner text. So what is an inner text? Suppose if you locate any element, inner text will be there for few types of elements. So for example, let us say, let's take any link. Suppose here desktops is there. So let me inspect this element. Okay, so basically what this desktop is, it is a link, right? Anchor tag, which is having href attribute and class attribute. Some attributes are there. You can use this attribute in XPath, but I don't want to use any attributes of the XPath, any attributes of the element. Still, I want to write an XPath for this link. How we can write it? So we need to capture the inner text. So this is called inner text. This is called as a inner text. So by using this inner text, we can find the element. We can find the element by using inner text. Okay. So let me show you how we can find this inner text. Capture this inner text, and we can write XPath like this. XPath with inner text. So inner text means what? Here we have to use something called a method, XPath with text method. There is a method is there which is called text. So I will write the syntax a little bit change when I use methods. // tag name. Okay, what is the tag name of the desktop element? Anchor tag, right? So A, in this, I'm not going to provide any attribute. I'm not going to provide any attribute. Simply what you can do is I can use one method called text equal to what is the value of the text here is MacBook. This is the inner text, desktop. Whatever you want, you can find out. Desktops I'm taking. So you can put desktop. So this is also an XPath. So have I used any attribute in this XPath? No, we haven't used any attribute of the element. And whatever we have used here, this is what? Inner text. Okay, the text is a method. If the text value of the A is equal to desktops, then it will go and match with that element. Then it will find that element. Okay, similarly, if I want to look at this MacBook, inspect this MacBook link, and this is also inner text, and tag name is A. So without using attribute also, we can write an XPath. So here we can say text bracket equal to, you can specify the value like this. So this is also XPath. So by using text method, we can find the element. And when this is possible, only if you have an inner text, then only it is possible. But if you look at the input box here, do we have any inner text for this input box? Do we have any inner text for this input box? Yes or no? Yes. Most of the times, link text is also we consider as an inner text, but sometimes inner text doesn't have a link. I will show you that. Okay. So for example, if I look at here input box, do we have inner text for this input box? Do we have an inner text for this input box? No, we do not have an inner text for this. So we cannot use text method for this element. Okay. Suppose I'm locating this one, featured text. Do we have inner text for this? H3 tag name. Do we have attribute or do we have inner text for this element? Yes. Do we have attributes for this element? Attributes? No. Okay, so is this a link? Is this a link? Featured. Is this a link? No. This is not a link. This is not having any attribute. It is just a simple and inner text. Okay, so here MacBook is inner text or not? Yes. This is also a link. This is also a link text and also inner text. But in this case, featured, this is not a link text. This is not a link text, but it is an inner text. You got my point? It is an inner text. So you understood the difference between this one, inner text and link text. The link text can be in an inner text, but all inner text cannot be a links. That's the point I want to convey. Okay, now let me write something like HA, anchor tag A, HF equal to, okay, some HTTP is something xyz.com, something is there. Okay, and here I'm saying click me and closing anchor tag. Now tell me, is this a link text or not? Click me is a link text or not? Click me is a link text or not? Yes. It's a link text. Yes. And is it an inner text or not? Is it an inner text or not? Yes, it is also inner text. So this is the inner text and also it is a link text. Suppose if I write like this, div, I'm writing a div, no attributes, welcome. And again, div tag is got closed. Now in this, is it a link text or not? Is it a link text? No. Do we have inner text here? Yes. You understood now what is the difference between inner text and link text? So the link text can be an inner text, but all inner text may not be a link text. Until unless you have this href attribute, you cannot say that is a link. Okay, so if you have this kind of inner text, and if you do not have any attributes, so by using inner text, we can still locate an element. It is still locate an element without depending on any attributes. Still, we can locate an element by using inner text. How it is possible? By writing a text method. Okay, so let me show you. So here, XPath with text method. So how we can write driver dot find element by dot XPath. In the double quotations, we have to specify slash slash. If you specify the tag name, you can specify, or you can put star, no problem. And in the bracket, text method equal to the value of the text is what I say, MacBook. Okay, so this will able to find the MacBook element. Then I will perform the click action on this. Click action on this MacBook. I want to perform the click action like this because that is a link type of element. We can perform the click action. Okay, let's execute now. And first of all, let us check this is working in the dev tools. Go back to the page. Okay, now go to selector hub. So I'm just pasting the XPath here. Press enter. Yes, now it is matching with one element. So XPath with the text method. So now we can directly use it here. Then run. Yes, now it is successfully clicked. So it is going to the next page. Right. So XPath with the text method. So here we consider inner text. We consider the inner text. We are not using any attributes in this. We are not using any attributes. So by using inner text, we can still find the element in the XPath. Okay. Let me show you one more. In the same page, I want to capture this text featured. Okay, I want to print that in my console window. That is not error actually, that's application related error. So when I click on the MacBook, it is, if you do manually, it is working fine. But when you try to automate, because we are doing through automation, right? It is asking for some kind of authentication. So that's a problem with the application, not our code. Okay, now this link is fine. But what about this one? Featured. Featured. This is just a normal label. It is not a link, right? So how to capture this? Inspect and inner text, right? This is inner text. Featured is inner text. So let us try to capture it. So can we do any operation on that label? Can we do any type of action on this? If it is a link, we can click on it, but it is not a link, nothing. It is just a label. So what we can do, we can capture this value. Text value we can capture and we can print in the console window, right? So let's write an XPath for this. Okay, slash slash h3 is a tag. In the bracket, I say text equal to featured. That's it. Now one element is matching. Now we can use this. Yeah, we can check display status. We can also capture the text value. So you can say this is the XPath. Now let me write driver dot find element by dot XPath. In the double quotes, we put this. Okay, now if you want to just verify this display status, you can write is displayed. Is displayed. So this will return true or false. So display status. And what is the type of this variable is? Boolean type of variable. And then you can print display status, true or false. Okay. Suppose if you want to capture the text value of this element. So then what you can do, dot, there is a method called get text, dot get text. So that will capture the text value of the element that I can store in a string variable. Okay, or string value that I can print. Right? So I can check the text value, that label is displayed or not. If it is displayed, I can also capture the text value of the element. Yes, you can compare this value with your expected value by just writing one if condition. You can check this value is correct or not. Okay, let me run it. Okay, now you can see we got output as a true and also featured. So this is how we can capture this. SH selector is not related to Selenium. Okay, this is related to some other tools. It is nowhere. So the selector hub is not only for Selenium selectors. Okay, it is also supported some other tools like Test Trigger, Playwright, Cypress, Locators. So all types of tools are supported as of now. Multiple tools are supported. So this SH selector is not related to Selenium selector. Okay, right. So now we have understood how we can use text method along with the XPath. Everybody is clear so far in this XPath with text method, how we can use and when we have to use. If we have only inner text of the element, then you can use it. And if we, without using any attributes, we can still write an XPath by using text. All right. So there is another method, just like a text, we have another method called contains. Contains. XPath with contains method. Contains. Okay. So let us see how we can use this contains method. Very simple. Let's say I want to locate this input box called search. Inspect this element and there are some attributes are available for this element. So name, placeholder, and so many things, right? So what I can do is I can write an XPath for this like slash slash input. Here, I'm not going to specify any attribute. I'm not going to specify any attribute. But what I can do is I can say one method called contains method is available. Contains. Here we have to pass two parameters. Contains method will expect two parameters. The first parameter is which attribute I'm using, placeholder and comma. The second parameter is the value of the placeholder. So what is exact value of the placeholder is search. Search is an exact value. But here I will just specify only SEAC. That's it. And then close this. Single quotation. So this will able to locate the element. So zero element as of now. Why it is zero element? Input is tag name is not correct. Yeah, one element. So if I look at this, how exactly we have written this? What is contains method will do? See, when I use contains method, specify the name of the attribute and specify the value of the attribute. So when I use contains method, I no need to provide the complete value of the attribute. I can just specify some partial value of the attribute. So in the strings also we have a contains method, right? Yes, exactly. It is a substring. In the strings we discussed about contains method. What this will do, it will return the subsection or substring of the main string. Similarly, the contains method will verify this wherever the placeholder attribute is having this particular string, that will go and match with that element. So contains means we can verify the partial value of the attribute. We can verify the partial value of the attribute. So whichever attribute we specify here, that attribute contains this one and that will go and match with the element. So this is all about contains method. You can use any attribute here, but you don't need to specify the complete value. You can just specify some partial value. That's called contains method. Okay, let's go and use it here. contains XPath with contains method. So driver dot find element by dot XPath dot, this is a input box. So I'm using send keys. Right. So if I look at here, input is a tag, contains is a method, placeholder is an attribute, and this is the value of the attribute. It's not complete value, some partial value I'm provided. So this will able to locate element. So this is the contains method. Contains means it will verify the partial text value of the element. So it is able to locate it. Same way, we have another method called start with. XPath, it is almost similar to contains, but slight difference is there. XPath with start with function, start with. So in this also, we can write same thing. So instead of contains, I can say start with. And again, placeholder and the attribute value starting with SEA, right? So you can keep that, no problem. So instead of contains, I can also use start with. It is another function or another method available in XPath. Okay, now it is got enter the value. Let me run one more time. There is some exception. Yeah. Okay. So this time we got some exception. So we'll see first of all, this particular XPath is correct or not. Let's copy this. Okay, see, there is a syntax error. So red color mark is representing as a syntax error. It is clearly saying selector hub also can cross check whether it's valid syntax or not. So it is saying invalid syntax. Now let us check why it is invalid syntax. / input. It is, I think it is a starts plural. Okay, it is not start, it is a starts with placeholder C. Yeah, now it is matching. So instead of start, you can say starts. Okay, so now it is able to locate element. So this is how we can use start. Now, what is the difference between contains and start with? Can anyone guess? What is the difference between contains and start with? Difference between contains and start with. So in contains method, this value which we provided can be anywhere in the string. Okay, actual string is what? See, in both the cases, what is an actual string? Search, right? This is an actual string. That's what expected string. So in the contains method, we just say only SEA. That is a part of the main string. So it is matching with us. But in start with also, the search is start with SEA. So this is also matching. So the major difference is contains method will check the string anywhere. It can be beginning or it can be middle or it can be end. Wherever it is comes, it still matches. But start with method will not match like that. Okay, start with method will, we have to, this particular string has to be beginning of the string. So then only it will able to match. Okay, that is a major difference between contains and start. And one more important thing. So this contains and start with functions we can use whenever you want to locate dynamic web elements. Whenever you want to locate dynamic web elements, you can use start with and contains functions. So let me tell you, suppose your attributes are keeps changing. The values of attributes are keeps changing. Then how we can locate those elements by using XPath? And most important entry questions. how we were able to handle the dynamic elements using XPath. So here we use something called contains or start with functions. So let me show you an example how we can handle the dynamic elements using start with and contains finding. Very, very important scenario. Handling dynamic attributes. Dynamic attributes in the sense what? The attribute values are keeps changing at the runtime. So suppose if you are using some ID in the XPath, same ID will not be there in the runtime. So then XPath will definitely won't work. So in that case, how we can handle this? So let me explain this with some examples. So you guys can also tell me the answers for that. Let me take, let us assume I have some button on my application. My button name is called start. I have a start button. Okay. So when you click on this button, immediately it is turned into stop. So most of the times you can notice this kind of behavior for stopwatches. When you click on start, the stopwatch will start and rotating. Whenever you click on the stop, it will stop. The same button is acting as a start and a stop. So once you click on it, it will turn into stop. Same button. There are no multiple buttons. There is a single button and it is changing start to stop, again stop to start. Okay. When the button is in start state, let us say the ID value of the button is start. Okay. When button is turned into stop, then ID value becomes a stop. This is my scenario. So when the button is in start stage, the ID value start. When button is in stop state, ID value changing stop. So now I want to write one single XPath, and through that XPath, I'm able to locate element in whichever state it is having. Either it can be start or it can be stop. In both the states, I want to locate the element by writing a XPath. Then how can we write XPath for this? There are multiple ways are there. Now just tell me one by one. Give me one XPath. Start and stop. Same button turn into start and stop, again start and stop. ID is start and stop. So sometimes ID is a stop, sometimes ID is a stop. Then I want to write one single XPath through which I should able to locate element. For example, if I write an XPath like this, whether it's correct or not, you tell me. Slash slash, I don't know tag name, I can say star. Here I'm using something called at the rate ID equal to start. So this is the XPath I have written. So will it work? First of all, is this XPath correct? The way of writing syntax, the way of writing XPath is correct? Yes, XPath is correct. But it can locate element only one time. That means if the button is in start state, then only it can identify. But once it is turned into stop, it cannot identify. Right? It cannot identify. Same thing if you put stop here, then it can identify only if the button is in stop state. But once it is into start state, this XPath cannot work. So by specifying the ID directly, we cannot locate these elements. Only in one state we can locate, but another state, the XPath will not work. So we need to write an XPath. Let us use OR operator and see. There are multiple ways. One approach is OR operator. Let's see. Slash slash star at the rate ID equal to start or at the rate ID equal to stop. Can we write like this? Will it able to handle in both the situations? Yes. Why? Because we use OR operator. Can we use AND operator here? AND. No. AND means both the properties should be true, but at the time ID cannot be start and stop, right? So we should use only OR. So in case of start, the first attribute will match. In case of stop, the second attribute will match. At least one should match. So this XPath will able to handle this kind of a situation. This is one approach. This is correct. Now another approach. By using contains also we can do it. By using contains also we can do it. How we can do it? Contains, specify the at the rate ID attribute and we need to identify one common thing in both IDs. What is the commonly there in both IDs? What is the common value which we have in both IDs? First two characters are common, right? ST is common. So that you can specify here. ST. Okay. So then this XPath also can identify element in both the states, because in even if ID is start, still it is working. ID is stop, also it is working perfectly fine. Now, another way, by using start with function, you can say star starts with at the rate starts with at the rate ID. Here you can say again ST. So will it work? Yes. So these are the three different, because every ID is starting with ST only, right? So this also works. So we can also handle the dynamic attributes by using contains and start with functions. In multiple ways we can handle it. So these XPath we cannot generate. We have to write manually. Okay, these type of XPath we have to create our own. Okay, so very, very important. So contains a text. Yeah, that is also same. Contains a text, contains, that also you can write. So another way you can do like this, slash slash star. Okay, and you can say in the bracket contains. In the contains the two parameters it will take, and the text parameter, comma, here you can put st. So contains a text. Text is nothing but what? The text should contains a st. So text method will capture the text value of the element, and that contains st. So this we cannot use for this element way, because this will work only for inner text. Okay, the text method will work only for inner text and links. For buttons, we don't see any inner text most of the times. Okay, so that's the reason. If there is any inner text, then it will fine, or else it will not work. So these three are appropriate to handle this scenario. Now I will give you some more examples. You guys can tell me when to use contains, when to use start with. You guys can tell me. Suppose I have a name attribute for the element. The name attribute is keeps changing. So initially the name attribute is what? XYZ 001. XYZ 001. That is initial stage. And after that, the same name attribute is got changed like this: XYZ 002, XYZ 003, XYZ 004. Or again XYZ 001 and XYZ 002, like this. It keeps changing 1, 2, 3, 4, again 1, 2, again 2, 1, like that, dynamically changing. Then how can you write an XPath for this? So tell me one XPath. Yes, contains and start with functions works if there is something commonly there, but definitely there is some common thing will be there whenever you can some dynamic kind of a behavior. Yeah, I'll show you more examples. Now tell me, if the name is changing like this, how can we handle this attribute? By writing an XPath. Can we use contains here? Contains. Contains at the rate name. Contains at the rate name. What is the commonly there in all the names? XYZ is a common. So that you can specify XYZ is a common. So this XPath is valid. Can we use start with? Start with. Starts with at the rate name, comma, XYZ. So we can use start with only, right? Because all the names are start with XYZ. Perfectly fine. So contains we can use. Start with also we can use. Both are valid in this context. Okay. Now 00 is also common, right? So can we write like this? 00 also common in all the scenarios. Contains a name 00. Can we write like this? Yes, that is also valid. But in start with, we cannot write 00. Why? Because 00 is something in the middle of the string. So it should have only XYZ. Fine. So now another scenario. Now let's say my name attribute is like this. Name value is, initially it is 001 XYZ, 002 XYZ, 003 XYZ, 004 XYZ, again 001 XYZ. Okay. How to write an XPath? Can we use contains here? Contains. Contains. Yes. Contains @name equal to @name. Sorry. Contains is a method, open bracket. @name is what? Can put XYZ, because XYZ can be anywhere in the string. So we can put, no problem. Can we use starts with? Starts with. No. Why? Because the starting values keeps changing, right? 00 is a common. You can use start with 00. That is fine. Starts with name 00, because every name is starting with 00. You can still use, but 001, 002 you cannot specify because the values are keeps changing. Okay. So contains method you cannot use. Start with method you cannot use. You can use with 100. Suppose if 00 not available, let's say 00 is not there. Now can we use start with? Can we use start with? No. Start with we cannot use. Okay. Then I'll show you one more scenario. In this case, start with we cannot use. Only contains will work. Now let me take another example. Name equal to 101 XYZ, 201 XYZ, 301 XYZ, 401 XYZ. Yeah. Now tell me, can we use contains here? Contains. Contains we can use because XYZ is a common. Can we use start with? Start with we cannot use, only contains. // star contains, and here @name, simply you can say XYZ. Okay, so now you understood what is the difference between start with and contains method. So these are the two methods through which we can identify the elements, their attributes are dynamically changing. Okay, now let me use it in your example we already used. Okay, fine. So now let us see another type of XPath called chained XPath. Chained XPath. Yeah, 01 also use. The contains method 01 is common, right? Yes. Contains name is 01. 01 is common. All are valid. So now another type of XPath is called chained XPath. So what is a chained XPath and when we need to go with the chained XPath? Sometimes if you're not finding any attributes of the element, and even you are not having any inner text. Okay, you don't have any inner text and you don't have any attributes for the element. In that case, how we can write an XPath for the element? Okay, for example, let's say here I'm taking this logo element. If I inspect this element, you can find img tag and there are some attributes. Okay, so let us assume you don't have any attributes for this img. You assume you do not have any attributes for this element. Then how we can locate element? You don't have any attributes, you don't have any inner text. So then how we can locate this element? So if you don't find any attributes for the element, you need to just go to the parent element. Okay, what is the parent of this img? What is the parent of this img tag? What is the parent? A is an anchor tag. And let us assume A is also not having any attributes. Then what we should do? Again, we need to go to another parent. What is the parent of A? Div. Div. So the div is having some attribute, right? So we will start writing XPath from div tag. Div ID equal to logo. Can we write XPath for this? Yes. So how to write // div @ID equal to, what is an ID value here is logo. So I can say logo. This is an XPath for the div tag. But this XPath is not direct XPath for the image. But my target is what image I want to look at. But image doesn't have any attributes. Then I went to parent. Even parent also not having any attribute. Then again I go to another parent. So I started from here. So I have written XPath for this logo. Then what is the child item for this div tag? A is a child item. And for A, img is a child item. So we can say /A/img. Now in this XPath, what is the target element? Target element is what? Image. Img is the target element. But did we write a direct XPath for img? Direct XPath for img? No. We have written XPath for the parent. From there, we have navigated to child. From there, again navigated to the another child. If I look at this, it seems like the combination of relative and absolute XPath, right? So till here, this is a relative XPath. From here, it is an absolute XPath. Why? Because we are saying //. So the combination is called chained XPath. This is the combination of relative and absolute XPath, which is called chained XPath. Chained means what? If you do not find any attributes of the element, then we will check the parent element is having some attribute. So from the parent, we will try to locate the child element. So it is just like this. Let's say I have some element here. This having another element. This having another element. Now I want to locate this element. No attributes. Then I will go to parent. Let's say this is A, B, C, and D. Go to parent elements. If the parent element is having attribute, then you can directly write XPath for this, and /, you can specify the tag name of the child element. Even this is also not having any attribute. Then go to another parent. So here you can find some attribute ID equal to some XYZ. Then you can write an XPath for this B like this / ID equal to some XYZ. And from there, you need to navigate two levels /C/D. Like this, you can write. And this is called chained XPath. This is called chained XPath. Sometimes, if you could not find any attributes of the elements, you can try writing the XPath for the parent element. From the parent element, you can navigate to the child elements. This is called chained XPath. Okay. So now, can we use this element? Use this XPath? Yes. Let me check it in the selector hub. Go to selector hub. And here I'm keeping this. Yes, one element is matching. So this is a exact element. So I can say this is chained XPath. So driver dot find element by dot XPath. And what we can do on this image? What kind of actions we can do on the image? Display status we can verify, right? So dot is displayed. So we can take a Boolean variable image status. So driver dot find element XPath is displayed. So why it is giving an error? This will return a Boolean value. I think this variable we have used anywhere. Somewhere. Okay. Yeah. So now let us print status. So this will verify the status of the image element. So chained XPath means if the attributes are not available for the particular element, we can take the attributes of the parent element and write an XPath. From there, we can navigate to the child element. So that is all about chained XPath. Okay. So everything is clear so far. So these are the basic understanding. What is an XPath? Okay. And how many types of XPath? Which XPath will be preferred? And XPath with single attribute and multiple attributes. XPath with AND or operators. XPath with text function. XPath with contains function. XPath chained XPath. Okay. And how to handle the dynamic elements using start with and contains function. There are n number of functions are there, but more widely we use start with and contains functions. Okay. So apart from this, there are some more options are there. We can say XPath access, like following, preceding, parent, child, sibling, preceding sibling, following sibling. There are multiple options we can use along with the XPath. So in the next class, we will discuss about the XPath. So what is the main difference between XPath and CSS? Okay, so before that, let me answer this question. What is the difference between contains and? Can you write your complete question? I could not understand this. So difference between, yeah. Can you write the statement? Okay, so contains a text. So this is a different actually. So this will work only for inner text. Okay, if suppose inner text, we are checking, suppose inner text contains something or not. If you want to check, you can write text and here you not specify anything, nothing, right? So text contains a nothing. This will go and match. So contains a text, nothing. So you can write another way. Okay, it is not matching with these things. Okay, these scenarios are different, but this works only if you have, this is right syntactically, this is correct actually. This syntactically it is correct. So when this will match, if you have any inner text, okay, suppose I have something like this, anchor tag, or suppose I have some div tag like this /div. Do we have inner text in this? Inner text? No. Okay, if you write an XPath like this, contains //div contains. So here text is what? Empty. There is no inner text. So here I'm not putting anything, just simple put single braces, empty single braces. Right. So now this will match exactly with this element, this div tag, because there is no inner text here. Okay. So text value is empty. Text is representing what? Empty, no value. So this will exactly match with this. Okay, so another one is this one, // contains a dot. So dot is also representing a text. So this is another way of representing the text. Instead of text method, you can simply use dot also. So dot operator also you can use instead of text. So both are same. Both are same. Okay. These both are same. Instead of text method, instead of text, you can put dot also. So, okay, the question is, we usually use an attribute that is not repetitive. How come we have a list of values? This is, I'm just taking for an example. See, I'm not saying one attribute is having multiple values. No. What I'm saying, if the name attribute is keeps changing, okay, initially this is a attribute value. Name value is 101 XYZ. And after some time, on the same name attribute is got changed 201 XYZ. Again, same name attribute is got changed something else. So sometimes if you refresh the pages, the attributes are keeps changing. So that's where the web pages normally designed most of the times. Very, if you look at the complex web pages, the attribute values will not be same every time. So I'm not saying all the values at a time. Okay. So initially name values this one. Let's say after refreshing the page, name values got changing like this. And after refreshing again, another value are getting. These are the different values are changing for the same attribute. In that context, I have taken this example. But one attribute cannot have multiple values. One attribute is having only one value at a time. Okay, remember that. Right. So practice this example for today's session. And I will upload one presentation today. You guys can go through the presentation, and whatever locators so far we have understood, all the locators are specified here. This presentation, I will show types of locators and different types of locators with an example. All the screenshots, example, I have taken everything. So this is example for ID. So name attribute, link text and partial link text, class name, tag name, and also CSS selectors. Whatever so far we covered, CSS selector, how we can use tag and class, tag and attribute, tag class and attribute, then XPath. So we have discussed all these concepts. What is an XPath? What is DOM, document object model? So you can see this is HTML. This is the DOM view of the HTML. This is the actual web page. So then Absolute XPath. What is an Absolute XPath? What is a Relative XPath? Syntax of Relative XPath. XPath with OR operator, XPath with AND operator, XPath with contains method, XPath with starts with method, XPath with the text method. Okay, so I'll share this presentation today. You can go through each and every slide and try to understand all the examples. In tomorrow's session, I will continue XPath with access. Yeah. So now the difference between CSS and XPath. And what is a major difference? Very popular interview question. Let us say your DOM is like this. This is your DOM structure. Okay. So if when I compare with CSS and XPath, CSS will go to only top-down approach. So CSS will go from top to down, only one directional. XPath will multi-directional. Suppose if there is an element here, you can get this element from by navigating from the top, or we can get this element by navigating from the bottom also. In all the directions, we can get that element. XPath will traverse throughout all the directions of the DOM, whereas CSS will traverse only one direction. So that's a major difference. But how XPath is direct in all the directions? Today we have seen only one direction. From the root node, we have navigated each and every node and find that element from root node. And this is again top-down approach. But how come that XPath will navigate all the directions? By using XPath axis concept. So in the tomorrow session, I will discuss about this, how we can traverse throughout the DOM in all the directions using XPath axis. So this concept we will discuss tomorrow session. So there's a major difference. CSS will navigate only in one direction, whereas XPath can direct in all the directions. We can move in all the directions. Chained XPath goes from bottom to top. No, top to bottom. So whatever chained XPath today we discuss, that will go to, because we identify parent, child and child, right? So first we have written XPath for the parent. From the parent to we go to child element. So this is top down only. So this is a top down approach. So down to top we can do only by using XPath axis. In the next class, I will discuss about this. Okay. In all the direction, like parent to child, child to parent, child to child. Okay. And parent to parent. So like child parent and grandparent. So child to grandparent also we can directly go. Similarly, from the grandparent to child also we can directly jump. So all levels of navigations are possible in XPath. But CSS only top-down approach is possible. So XPath axis, I will discuss in the tomorrow session in detail. Okay. So I'll stop the session today here, and tomorrow we will continue.